Would you like to know where we are? Vrndavan. Shri Vrndavan Dham ki Jai. We're in one of the areas of the 12 forests of Vrndavan. We could say we're in one of the 12 forests of Vrndavan, but the forest is gone. Just like when tomorrow we'll be going to Vrndavan town, and in Vrndavan town there's an area called Seva Kunj. And what is now Seva Kunj is somewhat maintained by a perimeter wall where Seva Kunj is, but previously a much larger area of Seva Kunj. Or yesterday we were in Madhuvan, and now it's not so much Van. It's still Maha, but it's not so much forest. So this is Madhuvan, one of the 12 forests of Vrndavan. And over this side is Krishna Kund. We've come here not specifically because of the significance of Krishna Kund, because it's a nice place for Katha, considering that the other places that we're going to be speaking about in Madhuvan, they're more difficult to get to than this one. Krishna Kund, the significance is with Krishna's Vangsi, his flute, he made this kund for the cows to drink and fill the water, fill the kund with nice fresh water. As part of Krishna's pastimes in Madhuvan, herding the cows. The sacred area of Madhuvan has many pastimes that were performed not only by Krishna, but one of the very special things about Madhuvan is that in each of the 4 yugas, the forms of the Lord appeared here in Madhuvan and performed pastimes with devotees. So there's 4 yugas. In Satya Yuga, we'll be visiting the place where Dhruva Maharaj performed his austerities. Dhruvatila. And also in Satya Yuga, Maharaj Ambarish came here to Madhuvan and performed his year-long Ekadasi Vrata, and the final scene where Durvas Muni came, where he was at the end of the year's Vrata, was to break his fast. That pastime where the Lord appeared in his Sudarshan Chakra to protect Maharaj Ambarish took place here in Madhuvan. And in Treta Yuga, the personality of Godhead in his form as Shatrugna. We're going to visit Shatrugna Mandir later on this morning. And a pastime performed, not only just a pastime of killing a terrible asura, as terrible and fierce as Ravan. Shatrugna slayed Lavanasura, and he became king of Madhuvan, or Madhupuri. Shatrugna in Treta Yuga. We'll describe these in detail. Of course, Dwapara Yuga, Krishna came with Balaram and regularly herded cows here in Madhuvan. And Both Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda came here, visiting all the 12 forests of Vrndavan, and spent wonderful pastimes, or performed wonderful pastimes here in Madhuvan. So the very place where we are in Madhuvan, and we'll be visiting some of these other locations, we can know that the personality of Godhead placed his transcendental lotus feet here in Madhuvan. Where can we say that about some place in this world? New York City? Bombay? Hyderabad? You can't say that about some place. The personality of Godhead in 4 yugas made his presence here in Madhuvan. We'll have to do some walking to get to Dhruva Tila, because it's not congested like this with traffic passing and children and dogs. It's in a very secluded place up on a tila, up on a hill. And if you can recall, when as a small boy, just 6 years old, Dhruva wanted to sit on the lap of his father. And his younger brother's name was Anupam. Anupam was sitting on his father's lap. And Dhruva, just being a small boy, wanted to sit on his father's lap too. Natural affection for a small boy. But King Uttanapada, this is very early in Satyayug. Uttanapada was the son of Swayambhuva Manu, the first of the 4 Manus who became the king. And Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanapada's, the son of Swayambhuva Manu, Uttanapada was the king. And he had co-wives. That can bring problems sometimes. In this case, it surely did. The elder of the 2 queens was Suniti, and the younger of the 2 queens was Suruchi. So the firstborn son was Dhruva. The second-born son was from the second queen, Suruchi. Suruchi's son was Anupam. Between the 2 queens, Uttanapada favored Suruchi. So much so that he just, as they say, turned a blind eye to the nastiness and offensiveness of Suruchi. I think of her instead of a Suruchi, Sunasti. Very nasty. So while Uttanapada had Anupam on his lap, Dhruva's trying to climb on his lap, and Suruchi said to the boy, Dhruva, get down. Do not think that you will be able to sit on the lap of your father, meaning that you will become the king. Do not think like that, because you're not born from my womb. You will not sit on the lap of your father, nor will you sit on the throne of your father. But if you're very fortunate, you'll die, and then you can take birth again from my womb, and then you can sit on the lap of your father. Little boy, such a harsh remark. So Dhruva turned to his father and wanted some protection from his father. But his father said nothing, because he was attached to Suruchi, and Suruchi, if he spoke something against Suruchi, she may not like it. So he didn't say anything. So 2 arrows were fired and hit the heart of Dhruva. First from his stepmother, or the co-wife of his father, and then from his father, silence from his father. He just burst out in tears and went running from the royal assembly, crying and crying and crying, and ran right to his mother, Suniti. Suniti was in a secluded place, and he was crying so hard he could hardly explain the situation, what just happened. Some other members of the royal court had followed, and they explained all that had happened. All that Suniti could do was just hold her little boy in her arms and also cry. And then said to her son, "There's nothing that I can do, because your father, Uttanapada, has so much affection for his other wife that he doesn't even care for me. That's why I'm sitting in this secluded place and not in the royal assembly. He's embarrassed and even unhappy that I'm his queen. There's nothing I can do." But there is something that I can recommend. And that is, if Lord Vishnu gives you his special mercy, anything can happen. So Dhruva stopped crying. He heard the words of his mother, and then he asked his mother very firmly, "Where do I find Vishnu?" And she replied, I'm just a woman. I don't know where you can find Vishnu, but I've heard that sages go to the forest and somehow, through performance of austerities or some special practices, they find Vishnu. Dhruva then considered the words of his mother and said, "Very well, I'm going to the forest." He turned and left. He didn't take his toys with him, didn't take his cell phone with him. He just left, just like that, looking for Vishnu. And he looked for Vishnu high and low, and all he found was the forest, trees and birds and wildlife and streams and insects, and he didn't find Vishnu. He found forest life in the forest. Meanwhile, Narada Muni, he heard this. You know how bad news spreads fast. He heard this bad thing happened. Suruchi insulted Dhruva, and he's in Kshatriya spirit, indignantly, he's gone to the forest looking for Vishnu. So Narada searched in the forest to find. He went to that forest, the forest of King Uttanapada, and looked for Dhruva, and he found Dhruva. He was very happy, and Dhruva was very happy, because right away he recognized, "Oh, this must be Narada Muni. My dear sage, please tell me how I can find Vishnu. You must know." And many things back and forth were spoken, where Narada didn't right away say yes or no. He was testing Dhruva to see how strong was his determination. So he gave options and placed obstacles and spoke in different ways. And after hearing everything that Narada said, very firmly, Dhruva once again said, "All the advice you had given me to give up my spirit of trying to get back at my stepmother, Suruchi. I accept as good advice, but I can't follow it. I can't follow it because I have this Kshatriya spirit. I want a kingdom. I want a kingdom better than my father. I want a kingdom better than my father's father, better than my father's father's father. I'll show Suruchi. Kshatriya spirit. Uttanapada's father is Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu's father is Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma's father is Lord Vishnu. He wanted a kingdom better than his father's father's father. He wanted Vaikuntha kingdom. Please, Narada, you understand my situation, you're a great sage. Certainly there's something that you can do to help me find Vishnu. So Narada saw he's very determined. So then he trained him in the process of chanting a sacred mantra. We have our sacred mantra, our Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Narada gave him the sacred mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And along with the chanting of his mantra, a process of, this is Satya Yuga. What's the means of achieving perfection in Satya Yuga? Which is the dharma for Satya Yuga? Dhyayate, the process of meditation. So he taught him a process of meditation, whereby, while fixing his mind upon the Supreme Lord in trance, he could chant his sacred mantra. And he advised him to have the best effect of that process, you should go to a sacred place. That sacred place that he assigned to him was Madhuvan. A very important in the Dhruva Leela, as far as the transformation of Dhruva from a Sakama Bhakta to a Nishkam Bhakta, was the following. Gratitude. He felt enormous gratitude. It's not just that Narada gave him some information to get what he wanted, and so then, thank you Narada, see you later. He felt enormous gratitude in his heart that Narada didn't have to do this. Narada did it just out of his mercy. How to find Vishnu? He gave him the key to find Vishnu. That gratitude was felt very, very, very deeply in his heart, and then he circumambulated Narada very reverently 3 times with folded palms, took his blessings, and came here to Madhuvan. We'll go to Dhruvatila, the very place where Dhruva performed the austerities that he rendered. And they were quite extraordinary, severe austerities. Do you know what those austerities were? It took him 6 months to realize the personality of Godhead, or for Lord Vishnu to come before him while he was chanting his mantra. For the first month, he took one meal every other day. Second month, that was too much sense gratification, so one drink of water every other day. And then one breath of air every other day. And by the time the end of 6 months ended, he had stopped the breathing process, his intense austerity. He had, the fourth month, he stood on one leg. You've seen the picture of Dhruva standing on one leg. In the course of the austerity, he had controlled his senses. By controlling the senses, it helped control the mind. Because he was in this controlled state of mind, chanting his mantra, his mind went completely to the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Which means he gave up his idea that I want to reach Vishnu so I'll get a kingdom. He was fixed in absorption upon the personality of Godhead. And in complete trance, he was seeing the form of Lord Vishnu within his heart. Meanwhile, because of his curtailing of the breathing process, it was suffocating the whole universe. So much so that the denizens of heaven, the demigods, were being choked. We can't breathe. They went to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, please help. We can't breathe. Please do something. Lord Vishnu said, don't worry. It's just a 6-year-old boy off at Vrndavan undergoing his austerities, and very soon I'm going to appear and take care of the whole thing. Don't worry, you can go back to your heavenly planets and I'll fix the problem. So from the ocean of milk, Lord Vishnu came here to Madhuvan. Remember this when we see Vrndavan, the personality of Godhead personally appeared in Satya Yuga. From the heart of Dhruva, he appeared before Dhruva. Dhruva was in his meditation, and all of a sudden, boom, the form of the Lord disappeared from his heart. He is in samadhi. He's not like casually thinking. He's in samadhi, trance. The Supreme Lord disappeared. So he was startled. And he opened his eyes and looked around and looking for Vishnu. And there he was, standing before him just as he had seen him within his heart. Now, on the back of Garuda, Dhruva was stunned, absolutely stunned. He didn't know what to do. He paid his obeisances. And he got up and paid his obeisances again, and stood before Lord Vishnu and paid his obeisances again, and he wanted to say something. But his voice was choked up with emotion so much he couldn't speak. So very compassionately, Lord Vishnu reached out one of his forearms, one with the conch shell, and placed the conch on the forehead of Dhruva. And by the touch of the conch of the personality of Godhead, all residual material, anything in the life of Dhruva was gone. And he was able to speak very, very beautiful prayers. The prayers of Dhruva to Lord Vishnu are worth studying. Beautiful prayers. It's not in the Bhagavatam, it's in another Purana where Dhruva spoke his words of embarrassment, great shame, that I approached you searching for a piece of broken glass, and instead you've given me this most valuable jewel, your association. He felt so ashamed that he had wanted this kingdom better than his father's father's father. He's now in Nishkam Bhakti, having no material desire. Then Lord Vishnu spoke and explained that now that you are pure in consciousness, I have some service for you. I want you to return to your father's kingdom, where you will inherit the throne for him at some point in time. You will rule this whole planet for 60,000 years. And after that, I've made some arrangement for you to ascend to Dhruva Loka, the pole star or north star. That one planet in this whole material universe that is a spiritual planet. You're aware? In this universe, there's one planet that's a spiritual planet. That's one way of saying it's within this universe. Actually, it's in the spiritual sky, because this universe is also in the spiritual sky. We're right now in the spiritual sky. We're in a cloud portion that's within the vast spiritual sky. If you were to remove this cloud, here we are in the spiritual sky. In this universe, there's one spiritual planet, Sveta Dweep, where the personality of Godhead resides. Garbhadakshay Vishnu, or Kshirodakshay Vishnu, resides in the ocean of milk on a white island. And that planet we now know as Dhruva Loka. So the personality of Godhead appeared from that realm, indicating, I've saved a place for you. You can rule there after you finish 60,000 years of ruling here. This is my service for you. You pleased me very much by your austerities. And as suddenly as he had appeared, poof, he disappeared. Right here in Madhuvan. So Dhruva was simultaneously ecstatic. Imagine seeing the personality of Godhead standing before you. At the same time, he was terribly broken-hearted. Not just that the Lord had left, but that he had approached him for such foolish thing. Kingship. Some worldly, temporary thing. Piece of broken glass. Useless. He said, if I had approached Narada in a different way, then when the Supreme Lord Vishnu went to his abode, I could have gone with him. But instead, because I had this other desire, I have to stay here, in separation from him. He cried and he cried and he cried and he cried. 6-year-old boy. When he regained his composure, he understood, I don't have a choice. I made my choice before, and now I have to accept the consequences of that choice. The Lord has given me this service. I must remain. So he went back to the palace of Uttanapada, who meanwhile was completely beside himself with grief. Imagine, those of you that are parents, that if you dealt with your child, a 6-year-old child, in such a way that he just left home, perhaps never to be seen again, because he was insulted so badly, how would you feel? Terrible. Uttanapada was feeling terrible. Terrible. He couldn't sit on the throne. He couldn't do his duties. He was just in this terribly distressed condition. But 6 months later, here comes Dhruva down the road, returning. And not just returning as a little 6-year-old boy, but he's effulgent, Mahabhagavata, pure devotee of the Lord. Just to see him, he could understand. This is not the same Dhruva that left. After some time, just from Dhruva's association, Uttanapada became free from his material attachments and decided to follow the path of his son, to go to the forest and search Vishnu. Turned the kingdom over to Dhruva, assisted by his younger brother Anupam. So this pastime took place right here in Madhuvan. And that's one of the very, very, very early in Satyayuga appearances of the personality of Godhead in Madhuvan. Then the pastime of Maharaj Ambarish, also in Satyayuga. Maharaj Ambarish achieved perfection in life by surrendering everything to the personality of Godhead, the process of Atma-nivedana. Prabhupada so often would quote the verse starting with Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo Vachangsi Vaikunta Gunana Varnane. Starting with the dedication of the mind unto the personality of Godhead, following that each of the senses. With his legs, Maharaj Ambarish would walk to the temple. With his hands, he would cleanse the temple room. With his eyes, he would see the beautiful form of the deity. With his ears, he would hear the glorifications of the personality of Godhead. The verse describes how each of the limbs of Maharaj Ambarish, very similar to how we're guided in our Krishna consciousness. We're to engage fully all of our senses, all of our faculties, all of our everything, all of our wealth. Maharaj Ambarish was like in Satyayuga so opulent that even the demigods didn't know the opulence of Maharaj Ambarish. Specifically, the Bhagavatam describes that as far as Maharaj Ambarish was concerned, that wealth had no more meaning to him than a little piece of stone in the street. Look on the street and find a little piece of stone and see how excited you get. Insignificant. Insignificant. Because of his complete absorption in the personality of Godhead. He was a Krishna Bhakta, and although it was Satyayuga, he worshipped the deity of Krishna in his temple. And he regularly went to his temple before he went to perform his royal duties. Specifically, it says to the late morning, like 10:30, 11 o'clock, he's doing his sadhana. He's the king, but so dedicated to the personality of Godhead. And one of the things that he did, won't describe the whole pastime, but one of the things that he did was, although he was such an elevated soul, he underwent austerities for the benefit of his citizens. Because when a king accrues piety, 1/6 of that piety goes to the citizens. And similarly, whatever pious acts the citizens do, 1/6 goes to the king. It's a nice The king's duty is to see that the citizens are engaged in proper activity, and the king benefits. When Prithu Maharaj was crowned, or there was some ceremony on his behalf, his opening words was to thank his citizens for engaging in all of their religious activities so nicely. Of course they did, because he was a good king. But he explains that because of your pious activities, I'm directly benefiting. Thank you so much for that gift of your pious activities, naturally being distributed to the personality, to the king. So Maharaj Ambrish had decided to undergo a 1-year-long vrata, a vrata of on Ekadasi, very, very strictly observing Ekadasi. Any of the devotees here on Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi observe that very strictly? It's nice. It's not so difficult. It's very nice. He doesn't say specifically what that strict observance of Ekadasi was, but it was a year long. There's 52 weeks in the year, and 12 months, and 2 Ekadasis per month, so 24 Ekadasis, and on Dwadasi, some ritual for breaking Ekadasi. And on the final Ekadasi, it was the culmination of the whole thing, and it was in Madhuvan that he was performing this Ekadasi Vrata, worshipping his Krishna deity and performing this Vrata in an auspicious place, in a transcendental place. So, very quickly, because of time, and you know the past time, when it was just at the right moment to break Ekadasi on the Dwadasi day, the final year-long vrata, just at that time in comes Durvas Muni into the assembly with his 60,000 followers. And whenever there is some function, a religious function, and some saintly person is present during that religious function, it makes auspicious that function. It sanctifies the function. And so Maharaj Ambrish was very happy, and he received Durvas Muni very nicely and made the appropriate request. It's just about time to break the fast. Could you break the fast first? Could you do that honor? And Durvas Muni said, certainly, but before breaking the fast, because I've been traveling, I must go take my bath in the river Jamuna and do my morning mantras. So he went to take his bath in the Jamuna, and Durvas Muni wasn't a devotee. He was a great yogi, but his meditation was meditation upon the impersonal feature of the Supreme. And we all know that can take a long time. So he was in the Jamuna a long time. And the time for breaking the fast was just about finished. So Maharaj Ambrish asked the Brahmanas what to do. I have to break the fast, but I can't break the fast before Durvas Muni. That would be an offense. So Brahmanas can sometimes be very clever. So the Brahmanas gave an answer how you can break the fast and not break the fast at the same time. Here's how you do it. You performed Abhishek for your deity this morning. Just take 3 drops of that Abhishek water, Charnamrit. Sip 3 drops. It's breaking the fast and not breaking the fast. So instructed like that by the Brahmanas, Ambarish Maharaj broke the fast. While he was in the Jamuna being gifted with certain powers to know things that are taking place in a distant location, Durvas Muni understood. Aha! Ambarish Maharaj has offended me. He broke the fast first. So he came back in his Durvas Ras. Angry. He's a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva, who's Ashutosh. Easily pleased and easily angered. What kind of a king are you? Offending the Brahmanas. I will destroy you. And he started jumping and dancing harshly on the ground and grabbed some hairs from his head and chanting mantra, dashed those hairs to the ground to create a fiery demon. The fiery demon appeared and he pointed at Maharaj Ambarish. Kill him! And the fiery demon turned at Maharaj Ambarish and started rushing at Maharaj Ambarish. But I forgot to tell you something very important. Because Maharaj Ambarish was such a great devotee of the personality of Godhead, one time Lord Vishnu personally appeared before him and gave him an expansion of his Sudarshan chakra and instructed the chakra, stand by the side of Maharaj Ambarish and protect him. So as soon as this fiery demon started approaching, Maharaj Ambarish, Sudarshan chakra, was very happy. He had some service to do. He destroyed that fiery demon in an instant. And Sudarshan then turned to Durvas Muni and started pursuing Durvas Muni. So Durvas Muni started to run. But running wasn't fast enough, so with his mystic powers he started flying in the air, and you know the rest. He went to Lord Brahma. Oh, Lord Brahma, please help. I've made a big offense. I tried to kill a pure devotee of the Lord. And look at my condition. Help. Lord Brahma said, there's nothing I can do to help. I'm a devotee of Lord Vishnu, and that's Lord Vishnu's Sudarshan chakra. There's nothing I can do. Maybe Lord Shiva can help you. He went to Lord Shiva and said, even stronger, I can't do anything against the will of Lord Vishnu. You need to go to Lord Vishnu. So he went to Lord Vishnu. All the way in Svetadweep. Durvas was a very powerful yogi. So the personality of Godhead spoke the following, often quoted, very important understanding that very much fits the mood of Braja Leela. And that is, this is Lord Vishnu. This isn't Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, but the same applies for Krishna. Where Lord Vishnu said, Durvas, there's nothing I can do. I have no independence from the will of my pure devotee. Because the devotee has surrendered, my devotee who has surrendered everything unto me. I have then given myself to him. There's nothing in the heart of the pure devotee but me. And there's nothing in my heart but him. Without my devotee giving me some indication, I can't do anything. Unless Durvas Muni says, okay, I can't do anything. I'm completely dependent upon Maharaj Ambarish. So you have to go to Maharaj Ambarish. And whatever he says, then I'll do. Very important. Just as yesterday we were discussing in Raval about Radha stealing the heart of Krishna. Now, Radha's not a thief, nor is she thinking, let me control Krishna. Because one who thinks in that mentality, that's not devotional. And Krishna punishes such mentality. Radha is not thinking, let me control Krishna, but her love is so pure, it controls Krishna. The love of Radha controls Krishna. And that's Krishna. It tells us something about Krishna. He is controlled by the love of Radha and his pure devotees. He does what he does. He behaves mischievously with Mother Jasoda and the elder gopis to invoke their parental affection. He's controlled by their love. So Lord Vishnu said the same about Ambarish Maharaj. He's not in Raja Bhav. He's in this Aishvarya Bhav, not Madhurya Bhav, but this is Madhupuri, where the mood of the residents of Braja during the pastimes of Krishna. This tells us about the super excellence of the love exhibited between Krishna and his devotees in Braja. And we will be hearing more and more about this as we continue our Yatra here in Vrndavan. So Durvas Muni came back, presented himself before Maharaja Ambarish, fell at his feet, pleading, I had no idea who you were when I made this terrible offense. Please forgive me for this offense. And not only that, Sudarshan Chakra is very hot. It's right in my backside. Please do something. What did Maharaja Ambarish do? With folded palms, he said, Durvas Muni, it is not you who have offended me. I deserve to be killed for breaking fast before you with 3 sips of water. I deserved it. Then he turned to Sudarshan Chakra, so he asked Maharaj Ambarish, you please forgive me. His would-be murderer, he's asking him to forgive him for his offense, provoking this anger. Then he turned to Sudarshan Chakra, and again, the whole chapter, beautiful prayers, glorifying Sudarshan, and concluding with saying, if there's any pious activities that I have performed in my entire life, I hereby transfer them all to Durvas Muni, so that Durvas Muni can be protected by that piety which I have done. So now I'm pietyless. But that's okay, because it's service to the devotees. And Durvas is not even a devotee, but yogi. A comment is that when we do activities that are elevated spiritual activities for the benefit of others, it's real. I know one devotee that's chanting some extra rounds each day for the welfare of his family members. Or we have this practice where in our temples we sponsor a feast in honor of somebody. Perhaps a deceased person or something like that. It's real. You make a sacrifice unto Vishnu, and the remnants of Vishnu Prasad are distributed to the Vaishnavas. There's spiritual merit that comes with that. It's right in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, where In the beginning chapter of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narada goes to a ghat where one aristocratic Brahmana is performing this wonderful ceremony worshipping his Shalagram Shila. Whole chapter describing, fantastic. At the end, he stands before his Shila at distribution of prasad and wonderful ceremony, everyone standing and appreciating fantastic worship of his Shila. He stands before the deity with folded hands and says, if there's any merit that has been accrued to me for this worship of you, please distribute that to others and simply fill my heart. If you've been pleased at all, fill my heart with unalloyed love for you. Later in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami explains, this is what pure devotion is. Whatever merit may accrue to a devotee through devotional service, the devotee simply wants to see that merit be somehow beneficial in the service of others. Yes? Any saintly person, as a standard, simply wants that their life is of value and service unto others. Always. So here's a Brahmana, or whatever we may be doing in our lives, let that which we are doing be somehow beneficial, of service to others. But the other part is equally important inside our own hearts. If the Lord is somehow pleased with us, the prayer is, please fill our heart with pure love for you, pure devotion for you only, exclusive love and devotion for you only. This detachment from worldly things, attachment to the mood of love for the Supreme. This is the spirit of pure devotional service. And this very pastime took place right here in Madhuvan. Now we've only passed through one yuga so far. We have 3 more to go. Unfortunately, they're shorter yugas. In Treta Yuga, there was a pastime where Shatrughna came and made his kingdom. He was crowned king. There was a ceremony in Ayodhya to have Shatrughna, because Ram is the king of all the land. So under Ram, he made Shatrughna king of Madhu Puri, here in Madhuvan. So the Leela, I hope our translators are taking good notes. Pages and pages. The Leela takes place after Ram has returned to Ayodhya. Sita and Ram are now the king and queen. Bharat has returned the throne to Ram. And that the 4 brothers are again reunited. Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna are all together. And there's a longer version, and I'll tell a slightly shorter version because of the time. But it was a part of Ram's practice, the ideal king, where he would permit the citizens at a certain time of the day, in the afternoon portion of the day, to come and present whatever difficulty they may be having. Imagine if heads of state did that presently. Imagine here in India, if some, in the government house, from 4 to 6 p.m., anybody, hear ye, any day of the week, come and we'll hear whatever your problems are. But in Ram's Raja, his rulership, there was nobody coming. So they would sit, the four brothers would sit and just discuss their wonderful activities together and their happiness in serving Dasarath in this way, ruling the kingdom. So there's some series of events which I'm going to leave out, which are very nice. But at one point, some descendants of Brigu came to the gate. Chavanamuni and his associates, who were residing here in Madhuvan, had gone all the way to Ayodhya to inform Ram of a problem. So the person at the gate said, "Let me just go and inform Ram that you've come." And he informed Ram and said, "Why have you kept them at the gate? This is an offense. Bring them in immediately." And Ram received Chavanamuni and his associates like Krishna received Sudama, with royal reception of elevated brahmanas. He worshipped them and received them very, very nicely. And then requested, "What is the purpose that you have come all the way from Madhuvan to Ayodhya? Please let us hear." He said, there's a situation that we've come all this distance because we feel that it's only you who can correct the problem. The problem is there's this one terrible Rakshasa, Asura, named Lavana. And he's totally terrorizing everyone in Madhuvan, particularly the sages. Whenever sages are seated in meditation, and this is in Treta Yuga, but we also do our meditation, they come and eat the sage alive. Lavana is so Rakshasa, cruel. And whenever yajnas are being performed and they're chanting sacred mantras, he flies above by his mystic power and sends down pus and blood and stool, desecrates the sacred ceremony. And whenever we're doing our other rituals, he comes with his trident and terrorizes us. And we've sought the help of many kings, but all those kings have been destroyed because Lavana is so powerful. To the point now, whenever we approach anyone, just to hear his name, they run the other way. Everyone is afraid of this Lavana. Please do something. So Ram turned to his brothers and said, Chavanamuni, can you please tell us a little bit about the history of this Lavana? He said, yes, Lavana is the son of Madhu, and Madhu is one of the descendants of the Daitya dynasty from the lineage of Kashyapa and Diti, descendant of Prahlad. Madhu, although he's in this Daitya dynasty, like Prahlad, he was so elevated and pure-hearted that otherwise the Daityas are enemies of the Brahminical culture, but Madhu befriended all the Brahmanas, and it was so much pleasing to all the Devas that one time Lord Shiva personally appeared before him in a darshan and expressed, how much you have pleased me, I want to give you some benediction. He showed his trident and expanded his trident and gave the expanded trident to Madhu and said, keep this trident, it will protect you from all misfortune. If anyone comes to try to harm you and your kingdom, if you release this trident at once it will burn to ashes any aggressor and come back to your hand, again ready for more service. So Madhu, here in Madhuvan, very humbly named the palace and the capital city after himself, Madhupuri. Madhupuri later became Mathura. So there's this connection between the personality of Godhead in his form as Krishna in Madhuvan and Ram. The lineage has its connection, you'll see. So Ram again looked at his brothers and very gently nodding said, when facing an opponent, it's important to understand the strength of the opponent. Where is his strength? What is his capacity? Can you describe? So Chavana Muni then described, yes, I can describe to you. He's so powerful that one member of the Surya dynasty, whose name was Mandata. Mandata was such a powerful king that he completely defeated all other kings in the whole earth. Mandata became so proud that he took his military force before Lord Indra in Indraloka and challenged Indra to combat. Indra simply smiled and said, Mandata, I will voluntarily submit to defeat to you if you first destroy all the kings on the earth planet. And Mandata said, aha! I have destroyed everyone in the earth planet. Everyone is under my rule. And Indra said, no, there is one very powerful ruler named Lavana in Madhupuri. You have not destroyed him. Oh, someone I've not destroyed. Quickly, I'll go at once. With his millions of soldiers, Mandata assembled before the palace of Madhupuri. He challenged Lavana to fight. Lavana was very happy to have combat. He took his trident, threw his trident, and at once the millions of soldiers in Mandata were a pile of ashes. And the trident came back to Lavana's hand. This is the strength of Lavanasura. We understand that you alone, Ram, are going to be able to defeat this terrible demon. Please help us. So that's all the Kshatriya needs to hear, is the plea for some protection from a Brahmana, elevated sage. So again Ram turned to his brothers and said, which of you would like the honor? Bharat stood up. Let me go. I would like to be the one who destroys this terrible Asura. And then Shatrughna stood. Said, I want to go. Bharat has done so much service for you already. I don't get to do anything. Give me some service. And all the brothers thought this was very good. Then Shatrughna, we're going to visit the temple of Shatrughna here in Madhuvan sometime after we finish all of this talking. Shatrughna then felt very bad and apologized that this is not etiquette for the younger brother to take a superior position to his elder brother, as Bharat has already volunteered and I'm pushing myself ahead of Bharat. This is very wrong. Such a big offense. The other brother said, no, this is very nice. You should accept this service. We want to support you in that way. Then 4 things happened. Ram said, before you go, we'll have a big ceremony. We'll crown you king of Madhupuri. So he was crowned as the king. He then gave him 2 gifts. One was a deity of Varahadev and an arrow of Vishnu. So in the Valmiki Ramayana, this is all described. The deity of Varahadev was manifested from the mind of Lord Kapila. And then Lord Kapila gave that to Indra as a gift. When Ravana invaded by military strength Indraloka, he took with him the deity of Varahadev and kept it in Lanka, along with so many other things, the Pushpaka Vimana of Kuvera. So when Ram defeated Ravan and installed Vibhishan on the throne, ruling Lanka, Vibhishan wanted to make wonderful offering to Ram. Ram said, I only want one thing, this deity of Varahadev. Please give that deity to me. I want to bring it back to Ayodhya. That deity of Varahadev was then gifted to Shatrughna to worship and for his protection. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also gave a deity of Varahadev to Bhaktisiddhanta when he was just a small boy, to worship, again for his protection. In addition, he gave to him an arrow of Vishnu and said, with this arrow you will be able to destroy Lavana. Guard it very carefully. And he told the history of the arrow. When Madhu and Kaitaba were trying to steal the Vedas from Brahma, Lord Vishnu came and destroyed Madhu and Kaitaba with this very arrow. And over the ages, this arrow has been passed on in our dynasty. And I am now entrusting this arrow to you. This arrow will defeat Lavana. Now, strategy. When you approach Lavana to kill him, don't go during this particular season. It's not auspicious. And whatever you do, don't let Lavana get his trident. You must approach him in such a way he does not have the trident in his hand, and do not let him get the trident in his hand. We've heard that's just where his strength is. Destroy him otherwise. Now go. Give you a whole royal army. So off he went. Grand procession heading for Madhupuri, here in Madhuvan. On the way, he stopped, Shatrughna stopped at the ashram of Valmiki Muni. And it was at that time that Sita gave birth to Lava and Kush, and that birth ceremony is described. How the names were given, and the children were cleaned by the cut end and the sharp end, and thus given their names, Lava and Kush, by Valmiki. They paid their respects to Sita, who gave her blessings to Shatrughna to be victorious in this fight against Lavana. He waited for the proper time according to the instruction that Ram had given, not during the wrong month, and came to the bank of the river Jamuna and saw the huge, from the other side of the river, the huge palace of Madhupuri. He made his plan. The plan was that while Lavana was going out of the palace early in the morning, it was then that he would go alone and assess the situation. He took his bow and arrows with him, including the arrow of Vishnu. Now it gets really exciting. The battle scene. Lavana had this practice where early in the morning he would go and get his breakfast. He had a long spear, and on the spear he would kill various animals. Lions and tigers and deer and rabbits and whatever he could find. And just stack them up like a shish kebab on his spear. Blood dripping, carried over his shoulder. It was coming back when Shatrughna approached him and said, "Stop, you wicked demon. I challenge you to a fight and I will destroy you. You have been killing brahmanas viciously, and I have come here at their request to destroy you." Lavana just laughed. Breakfast is coming without even any search. How wonderful. But before I eat you, please tell me who you are. I am Shatrughna, brother of Ram and son of Dasarath. Ram is ruling in Ayodhya, and the sages of this forest have come here to request Ram to destroy you, and I have been given the honor to kill you myself. Stand ready for combat. So Lavana said, I think you'll be best for dessert. I have all these other things for my breakfast. Let me first just go and get my weapons, and I'll be right back. And Shatrughna said, "You coward, and the excuse of going to get your weapons. You want to go and hide in your palace. You have this big spear, you have your mighty arms and powerful fist. Stand and fight. Stop being a coward." This just enraged Lavanasura. He put down his big spear, uprooted a tree, and threw the tree at Shatrughna. Shatrughna with his arrows splintered the tree into little pieces, which enraged Lavana even more. He picked up 2 trees and threw 2 trees, and again splintered them into little pieces, picked up huge boulders and threw them. Again, just splintered into little pieces. So he picked up another tree and started charging at Shatrughna and hit him in the chest with the tree. And Shatrughna fell to the ground unconscious. Ravana thought he was dead and said aloud, "I'll come back and finish him off for my breakfast, for my dessert later." He picked up his big spear and headed inside. Then Shatrughna regained his external consciousness. He stood, pulled the bow of the arrow of Vishnu, placed it in his quiver, and terrible sound formed in the sky, and he called out in a loud voice, "Stand, Lavana, and meet your death," and sent the arrow, just like Ram had killed Ravana, entered deep into his chest, and he fell to the ground, dead. And all the soldiers of Lavana came pouring from the gate, and single-handedly Shatrughna destroyed them all with the arrows from his own quiver. Lavana was dead, and so were his terrible armies. Shatrughna then went and summoned his army to come and occupy the palace of Madhupuri, and in a very judicious way, because such terrible rule had existed for so long. He stayed there for several years To make a wrong situation again right, Valmiki describes, it takes a sustained effort of purity over a period of time to make a wrong situation again right. So after again things had been put in proper order by Shatrughna's rule in Madhupuri, he then was hankering very much to be in Ram's association. So he left the kingdom in charge of others on his behalf, returned to visit Ram in Ayodhya. A grand festival was held, receiving Shatrughna victorious, having killed Lavanasura, reunited, just like Ram's long exile, reunited with the royal family. And then Ram took Shatrughna to the side after some months together and said, I have given you this service to be the king of Madhupuri. I know how much attached you are to me, but you must return. Return in this mood of serving me, and you will feel my presence, although you will also feel my separation. And having received the instruction from Ram, what could Shatrughna do but fulfill his instruction? So many instances like this in the Leelas of Braja, the service and separation. We'll be discussing this some more, particularly in the Braja bhav of service and separation. So Shatrughna left and came here to Madhuvan, in the capital city of Madhupuri, and ruled for thousands and thousands of years. That's Treta Yuga. The other two yugas will go very quickly. Just over here, if my memory serves me right, there's a temple of Dauji. Yes? Balaram. Because Krishna and Balaram, just like Krishna Kund and the Dauji temple there, Madhuvan was one of the favorite places where Krishna and Balaram and their cows would come and perform wonderful pastimes together while herding the cows. Krishna came here again and again and again and again, practically daily, to Madhuvan. And again, in Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, desiring very, very much to visit Braj, even just from the time he took initiation, and then later when he accepted sannyas, and later when he wanted to come from Puri, he made several attempts to come, and finally when he came to Vrndavan, he enjoyed the same mood that he together with Balaram enjoyed in the forests of Vrndavan. Lord Nityananda, before Lord Chaitanya had come, spent years in Vrndavan. Those of you that have been to Ekachakra will remember that when Lord Nityananda was just 12 years old, he left Ekachakra and went on pilgrimage for 20 years. Many of those years were spent here in Vrndavan, and many of those years in Vrndavan were spent here in Madhuvan, just in the mood of a cowherd boy. So this place, Madhuvan, is very sacred. The modern facilities make the atmosphere something different than it was when Krishna and Balaram were present, but that's all external. The eternal Dham is something else. So by hearing and appreciating the transcendental nature of the holy dhams of the Lord and the holy name of the Lord and the holy scriptures of the Lord, we can, to some degree, to the degree that our heart is pure and free from desire to enjoy the material worldliness of this existence, to that degree that our heart is pure, we can experience the transcendental realm of the personality of Godhead that is eternally present here. So while the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram are not visible to our eyes, we can understand they're eternally taking place. So those of you that have not had the opportunity to take darshan of the Dauji deity can do so. Offer prayers at Krishna Kund, sprinkle some of the water from Krishna Kund upon your head. Pay respects to the deity. Radhavan Bihari?
Madhuvan Bihari.
Madhuvan Bihari. Madhuvan Bihari. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Gaur.